Cowboys Nation, let me ask you something right now. What does it actually look like when a front office completely outsmarts the entire league before the rest of the NFL even opens its eyes? Because that is exactly what Jerry Jones just did this weekend. The Dallas Cowboys locked up Javonte Williams on a 3-year, $24 million deal with $16 million in guarantees and a $6 million signing bonus, hitting his account immediately. And I'm just sitting with the numbers, digging into the tape, breaking down every layer of this thing. And the more I look at it, the more I realize this is not just a good move. This is a masterclass, a clinic in roster management that every front office in this league should be studying. But there is also more happening here than just one contract. Because connected to this deal is a bigger story about where this entire Cowboys roster is heading. And by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this Javonte Williams extension is just the first domino falling. But before we go any further, hit that subscribe button, drop your take in the comments, and let us get into it. You ready? All right, let's go. Let me start with the timing because this is where the genius lives. The Cowboys signed Javonte Williams on February 21st. The legal tampering window does not open until March 9th. That gap is not a coincidence. That is intentional. That is Jerry Jones looking at the running back market, seeing Breece Hall and Travis Etienne about to hit the open market, and saying we are not playing that auction. Because if Javonte reaches free agency alongside those names, his price clears $10 or $11 million a year without blinking. Instead, Dallas locks him in at $8 million annually, 3 years, $24 million, $16 million, guaranteed. They bypassed the bidding war entirely before it even started. You cannot teach that kind of awareness. Either you see the window or you do not. Jerry saw it and he jumped. Now, let me talk about what this contract actually means in the market, because the value here is almost hard to believe when you lay it out. At $8 million per year, Dallas has locked in a top 10 producer at the 16th highest running back salary in the league. They essentially tied him with DeAndre Swift in annual value. Think about that. A guy who just put up the 9th best rushing yards total in the entire NFL last season is being paid like a mid-tier starter. That is not luck. That is front office execution at the highest level. And by acting on February 21st, weeks before the market explodes, they froze his price at a number that would have been impossible to get done once free agency opened. But here's my personal takeaway, and I think this is the part people are sleeping on. It is not just about the yardage, it is the violence he plays with. In 2025, Javonte Williams ranked 5th in the entire league in yards after contact, averaging 3.56 yards every single time a defender got a hand on him. That is not a scheme stat. That is a mentality stat. That is a guy who refuses to go down in first contact, who punishes linebackers and makes safeties think twice on the next rep. He carried the ball 250 times and still maintained 4.8 yards per carry. He finished with a career-high 1,201 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns, both personal bests. And remember, this is the same player Denver essentially gave up on, handing him a $3 million prove-it deal because they were not sure he still had that pre-injury explosiveness after the knee. He did not just prove them wrong, he shattered every expectation anyone had for him and transformed the Cowboys offense in the process. Dallas went from a predictable pass-heavy team to the 9th best rushing attack in the entire league last season. That identity shift happened because of number 33. And then there's the piece that I believe sealed this deal and sealed it fast, the pass protection. Ed Werder and other insiders have been hammering this point, and when you look at the data, it is staggering. Javonte Williams led all NFL running backs with 100 more 4 pass block snaps last season, and he held a 97.9% pass block efficiency rating. Read that number again. In a league where most star running backs are a liability the moment a blitz comes, Javonte's a bodyguard for Dak Prescott. He does not come off the field on 3rd down. He does not force Brian Schottenheimer to bring in a specialist just to protect the quarterback. The full playbook stays open on any down distance because Javonte handles his assignment every single time. That 3-down versatility, that true anchor quality, is worth every dollar of $8 million per year, and honestly, it might still be underpriced. Now, here's where the bigger picture comes in, because this move does not live in isolation. It is a domino. By locking up the running back position at a team-friendly number, this front office has cleared the runway to handle the George Pickens situation without financial panic. The franchise tag for wide receivers is sitting around $28 million, and that March 3rd deadline is coming at full speed. By saving real money at running back today, Dallas has the cap flexibility to pull that trigger on Pickens if they need to. This was not a standalone decision. This was step 1 of a sequenced offseason plan. And it also tells you something else. They are not going to overpay for backup running backs in free agency. They are not chasing veterans at a premium. Javonte Williams is the undisputed RB1, and Jaden Blue slides into a rotation role. The depth chart just got cleaner. The cap picture just got smarter. Everything downstream benefits from this one move being done right. To be honest with you, I only have one real concern, and I would not be giving you a straight take if I did not say it out loud. The shoulder injury Javonte dealt with late in the season is something to watch. Look at the workload, 287 total touches last year. By December, you could see the wear. The burst was still there, but not quite the same version you saw in October. And a 3-year commitment means nothing if he is running on empty come January when games actually define legacies. The Cowboys need to find a legitimate complement in the backfield, Not a 50-50 split, not a committee, but someone who can absorb 10 to 15% of those carries on drives that do not matter and keep Javonte fresh for the moments that do. A mid-round draft pick with speed, a free agent who can handle the load in garbage time, need number 33 sharp and explosive in the playoffs, not worn down from carrying November on his back alone. That is the one variable I want this front office to address before training camp. But that concern does not change the bottom line. This contract is a home run. You rewarded a player who clawed back from a career-threatening knee injury and proved every doubter in Denver wrong on a $3 million bet. He kept the blue-chip player in a Cowboys uniform at 25 years old during his absolute prime at a number that beats the market. And he did it weeks before the competition even had a chance to get involved. Javonte himself said it in December, and it tells you everything you need to know about why this deal got done. He said he loves it here. He loves his teammates. He said you do not always just follow the money. You want to go somewhere you can succeed and be part of something special. That is not a guy who was going to leave. That is a guy who wanted to stay, and the Cowboys were smart enough to make it official before anyone else could even make a phone call. Now, here's the thing, Cowboys Nation. While that contract story is a reason to feel good, there is a completely separate conversation happening in Dallas right now that is more complicated and it carries more risk, because the same front office that just executed this Javonte Williams deal beautifully has also been making moves on the defensive side that raise real questions. Questions about direction, questions about identity, questions about whether this team is actually rebuilding the defense the right way or just shuffling pieces and hoping for different results. And the headline that connects all of it is a trade proposal that honestly sounds almost too good to be true. We are talking about bringing a Super Bowl proven defensive back to Dallas for a day 3 pick. That is where this offseason gets loud. Let me set the stage, because you have to understand how bad it was before you can appreciate why the Cowboys are moving this urgently. The 2025 Dallas defense was the bottom tier in the league. It was not close. The secondary was constantly exposed. There were no consistent playmakers on the back end, no identity, no voice. Games felt like the defense was just trying to survive rather than trying to take the ball away. And when your defense plays like that, it does not matter how well your offense runs the football. You cannot win consistently if the other team can drive on you whenever they need to score. That 2025 defense cost this team a real playoff run, and it wasted another year of Dak Prescott playing at a high level. That cannot happen again. So the proposal that is now turning heads is this. The Dallas Cowboys could trade for Jalen Ramsey from the Pittsburgh Steelers for just a 5th-round pick. Let that sit for a second. One of the most recognizable defensive backs of the last decade. A guy with the Super Bowl ring. A player who put up 88 tackles, 3 sacks, 1 interception, and 8 pass breakups in 2025 while playing all 17 games for her day 3 pick. When you first hear it, you go, what is the catch? Because that price sounds almost impossible for that profile.
Here's what makes it real football logic and not just a dream. Ramsey is 31 years old and carries an expensive contract tag that makes Pittsburgh want to move on. His age and his price are exactly why the cost drops to a 5th-round pick. The Steelers are not going to get a first-rounder for a 31-year-old corner with a heavy deal. The market is what the market is. But here is what the numbers actually say about his 2025 season. He played every game, he was productive, and late in the year he transitioned to safety, which changes everything about how you evaluate this trade. Because you are not getting prime Ramsey lined up as a boundary corner every snap. You are getting a chess piece, a guy who can play corner, who can play safety, who can disguise coverages and communicate the back end of the defense in a way that only a decade of elite experience can teach you.
To be honest with you, that is exactly what this Cowboys secondary has been missing. Not just a talented player, but a veteran voice who walks into the meeting room and says, this is how it is done. When a new defensive coordinator takes over, the scheme changes, the rotations change, the priorities change. But what does not change automatically is the culture of the back end. That takes a player who has been in big moments and lived through real pressure. Ramsey has a Super Bowl ring. He's been a Pro Bowler. He's gone against the best receivers in the world and held his own. You cannot manufacture that kind of presence. Either you have it in your locker room or you do not. And here's the connection nobody's talking about loudly enough. The Cowboys also just cleared over $6.5 million cap space by releasing Logan Wilson, a move that looked confusing on the surface, but makes complete sense when you understand the context. Wilson came in, never found a consistent role under the new defensive coordinator, and the owner himself admitted there was confusion about his playing time. That tells you everything. This was not a performance failure. This was a system mismatch. When a new coordinator arrives, he wants his guys, his calls, his identity. Wilson was not part of that vision, so Dallas moved on, cleared the cap. And the linebacker room opens up for Dearian Overshown, a player with elite speed and real upside who fits the new scheme. Every one of these moves is connected. Release Wilson, free the cap, create flexibility to pursue a veteran presence at corner like Ramsey, while also addressing linebacker through the draft. But I will keep it balanced because this is not an automatic. Ramsey at 31 is not the same player who was the best corner in football 5 years ago. His athleticism has declined. His straight line speed is not what it was. And if you're expecting that version of Ramsey to show up and shut down WR1s every Sunday, you are setting yourself up for frustration. Getting is a smart, savvy, experienced defensive back who understands leverage and angles and how to disguise his intentions before the snap. That still has value. Real value, but this cannot be the only move. Adding Ramsey does not fix the pass rush. It does not fix linebacker depth. It does not give this defense a complete identity on its own. It is step one, and if this front office treats it like the finished product, we will be having the same conversation about this defense next February.